And welcome to HRBC show called Let's Talk. So, as we all know, that our youth are partaking in a lot of gun violence and different things. And today we have Mr. Ant Gates with Reck League. And he's going to tell us a little bit of how he is helping with that problem. So welcome.
I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Would you like to tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, I'm a Norfolk native, born and raised in Young's Park. It's called Young's Terrace now. So I've been around Norfolk, a good majority of my life. When I was 18, I moved to DC, stayed in DC for a few years, opened up a couple of businesses, and would always make it back here, every couple of months to do some type of event or program in Young's Terrace. So, it's always been something near and dear. This started probably in about 2007, 2008. With all types of projects, sports projects, music projects, mentoring projects, and just something, I just tried to give back to the community, the rec center, where, it kind of shaped and molded me. So part of that process led me back to Hampton Roads in 2012. We opened up a few businesses here, recording studio, some other stuff, and it was just a matter of me just doing what I've always been doing on another level. So I moved back here and just dive head first into some of the issues that a lot of the younger guys that I was connected to, were having and experiencing, and just being an older person, who been through a lot of those situations and stayed in the neighborhood and, been around in that environment, just trying to provide some means of navigating that. So that's what we pretty much do with Reck League. It's a lot of programming based on need, meaning, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. A lot of the individuals that we support, need some type of help from it could be mental, it could be physical, it could just be emotional. So we provide, programming to fit the needs of the individuals. So that's kind of a background of what we started in 2012 to 2013. And we just been continuing to do so with the rise of gun and gang violence going in Norfolk and nationwide. It's just, you need a lot more people on the front lines just trying to provide some type of platform for the younger generation to kind of grab a hold to.
Okay. You say we. Who's the we?
So when I say we, I mean my team. I got a team of individuals who help me from the capacity of, so I'm the executive director of Reck League. Of course, a lot of my friends, a lot of my guys from the neighborhood, a lot of what I call my neighborhood liaisons, so different individuals from different neighborhoods who can kind of help me put my hands on different people to assess situations and kind of de-escalate situations. So it's a community effort. When I say we, it's, you would see a lot of the same individuals at my events, but it's a neighborhood thing. And the one thing I can say about, they say community is lacking, but when I'm doing an event, particularly in Young's or whether it's Huntersville or in Norfolk for that matter, I get a good follow through with people who want to support because they either know me from sports or know me from in the neighborhood and just want to assist in the mission that we have. So we, for me, is a collective of a lot of individuals from the community.
Okay. All right. So I got some questions for you. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. Tell us about, what is Reck League? Like, are you only in Norfolk?
So Reck League is not only in Norfolk. We have participants and program students in the program that are from Virginia Beach. We get some kids from Chesapeake, but essentially by me growing up in Norfolk, Reck League took a play on it from when I grew up, and we had the Norfolk Parks and Rec. We would call it Reck League. So I kind of took a play on that name, RECK. Because again, back in the day when we were younger, getting in trouble, just wrecking havoc, causing mischief. So I wanted to kind of put a spin on the traditional rec name because, again, it wasn't associated with Parks and Recs. It's my nonprofit, and we are a nonprofit. So I wanted to put a spin on it, but most of the people in Norfolk and most of the people in the surrounding area knew or know what Reck League is, as far as when we talk in the sense of sports and we're talking in the sense of young adults participating in different activities. That was the Norfolk Reck League was, and that rec stood for recreation. For me, we just kind of took a spin on it because a lot of the kids that I would get was into, had some reckless moments in their life or reckless behavior. Some of them may have been, re-entering society because they were in detention center. So Reck for me took a different approach, a different meaning, and that's kind of how it was born. But what we do, it started with honestly with sports driven mentoring. Like I found out that the easiest way for me to get the kids listening and get their attention was providing them some type of competitive atmosphere. So using the rec center with the assistance from people like Miss Ford, Buck, and Miss White, a lot of the older people that work for Norfolk Parks and Recs, allowing me to have access to run programs, do camps, do free clinics, do basketball tournaments, do training sessions, do mentoring groups where we would feed the kids. So that grew into what my nonprofit is about. Using sports to engage an individual to get their attention. But once you got their attention, then I got to offer you some substance. And once I offer you some substance and you're listening, I can figure out, what it is that is truly the root cause of what you got going on in your life that may be a problem. And we just figure out ways to deal with it, whether it's you having issues with another group of individuals from another neighborhood, or it could be you just you need money. So I'm at the verge of doing something illegal to get money. So how can we, put things in perspective to be able to assist those individuals? So that's kind of what we use Reck League for, and it just kind of turned into different programs like skill building programs, music programs, mentoring programs, us doing symposiums like Know Your Rights, and it just branched off into a life of its own, to community days where we would do resource fairs, trying to bring resources to the residents. And every year we do Christmas. We do 300 families for Thanksgiving and Christmas. We do the Halloween trunk or treat, back to school. So in addition to our programming, we have like quarterly events that serves as a staple of the community, so people can kind of reconnect, refresh, see everybody, see the faces, and it also allows me a chance to meet new people and people to see what we're about. And those events typically is what I'm about. So if you come out to one of my events and you see what's going on in different exchanges, that's what Reck League is about for me. It's not a publicity stunt, or it's not a media thing, or it's for my chance to give back, my chance to connect, and my chance to show the individuals in my program, like, look, I do this because I'm interested in your success, and I want you to pass it on and move it and do it for the next group of kids when I'm out the way.
That's awesome. So a lot of people would be like, is it just for boys? But you have
and so I'm glad you asked that, because I get a lot of moms who ask about programming. We've been conscious of including programming into what we do. We have two groups starting up this fall. Girls Being Girls, that's a mentor-based group for older ladies, older women who will be mentoring younger ladies who stay in under-resourced areas of lady etiquette and how to conduct yourself, how to navigate the landscape, how to recognize certain things when your boyfriend, quote unquote boyfriend, is being abusive, and just a lot of different things on a lot of ways young women these days may not get taught or get proper guidance on, because they may not have an older adult or older female in their life who's rearing them in that direction. So these young ladies are attached to an adult or older mentor, and they help in that. And then we have a skills-based training program for some of the young women who are interested in doing some cosmetology programming. So we got young ladies who's going to teach courses for things like doing nails, doing hair, makeup, blah, blah, blah. And it's a full 3-month boot camp where you can actually learn the trades, get the trade, or should I say learn the task, get acclimated to the task, fall in love with it, and possibly it can lead to a career, or you furthering the education at a cosmetology school. So that's the goal for us when you graduate from our program, to connect you with a top cosmetology school or a barbering school, or a recording studio, based on whatever that training course is. So we do target females as well, and I have a lot of female basketball players who are diehard Reck Leaguers. I mean, they'll participate in my events. If you came to my last event, you see the basketball game where we had young ladies participate, and these are young ladies who are in our mentoring program, and they're some of the top female basketball players in the area, but they started off with us, and so the doors is definitely open to female participants.
Okay, okay. So I didn't hear anything about tech though. You got some tech in there?
We do. We just starting with we're getting started with the tech phase. We have a class for the younger individuals, AIM High program, which will be introducing concepts to tablets, getting familiar with internet concepts, small beginner coding. So it's an introductory course for the younger ones, and the reason why it's that way is because we're in the process of moving. And so I'm pretty sure you all heard of the transition going on with Military Circle Mall. My location is in Military Circle Mall, so we're looking for landing spaces for our enterprise. So we couldn't really build out the actual tech program like we wanted it because it required a classroom setting and computers and all those things. And it just doesn't make sense to do that right now when we have to find a place to relocate. So, but that's something that we're big on, especially in the under-resourced areas where you don't get a lot of hands-on with technology because of one, a lot of those classes and those boot camps cost money. And a lot of these kids don't have the money to do it, or their parents don't have the resources to, put them in those type of classes and courses. So we want to work with partners in the community to bring those things to the kids.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So you already answered what made you create it. I'm gonna need you to stay on script.
I'm sorry. When I
stay on script.
Gotcha.
Okay. So how do the children actually become a part of it? Do they mock up what?
Yeah, so we do have a website, reckleague.org, RECKLEAGUE.org. So a lot of people reach out via the website when they found out about a lot of stuff that we do. The majority of our students have come on a referral type of basis from some type of community entity, whether it is like the group home or is this the elementary school, whether it's a probation officer, whether it's a local parent who having trouble with their kid, son or daughter in the neighborhood, and they know, we provide, or should I say, we do things in the community, so they reach out. So that's pretty much how we get a lot of the individuals, but with the word being spread about what we do, the programming that we're starting kind of fills up fast, and we're growing. So the goal is to add more classes and more groups, but we are available and are looking always open arms for individuals. So feel free to reach out.
Okay. What's your take on all the gun violence going on, and what are your ideas on how to help stop it?
The gun violence epidemic is, for one, let's just say it's national. So it's not just something that's centralized to Hampton Roads. My take on it is I have a personal take from I've lost individuals close to me in Norfolk due to gun violence, family members and friends, young family members and friends, and just about once a month or almost it seems like weekly somebody's been a victim of being shot, and just people dying that we know. So we do see the uptick in the violence, but I also want to, and I'm not taking it away from the offenders, because we do need to make sure that the offenders are caught and apprehended. But it's a lot of things are systemic. What's going on in the neighborhoods? You have a lot of young individuals right now who, unlike myself, when I grew up, I had older people in the neighborhood who served as OGs. They were guidance. So a lot of the things that they may have been doing, they didn't allow me to do, or if they see me off course or they see me straight too far, they knew parents, or they knew my brother, uncles, so they could say, "Aunt, that ain't what you should be doing," or "Aunt, that was a bad decision." Now, with the neighborhood structure the way it is, and a lot of individuals, not allowed to be in the neighborhood because of, they may get a trespassing charge if they're seen. A lot of the older guys tend to have, moved out of the picture. So now you have a group of youth and young adults who don't have supervision at home. They don't have structure or any type of leadership, when it comes to being out in the neighborhoods or being in the streets. So it turns into the Wild Wild West. So again, I'm not saying that as an excuse. I'm just saying we had checks and balances growing up to where, it was somebody who could get to me on some type of level, whether it was the parents, whether it was a relative, or whether it was somebody that was in the neighborhood who I looked up to. That structure is no longer there. So you have young parents or young teens raising younger teens. So you have a household dynamic that's consistent of a brother and sister relationship when it should be mother and son. So the authority figure is not present. So it's a lot of things, we got a lot of ideas of how you can make the situation better. We could probably go on for an hour just in that. But again, I think the violent situation is something that we all need to become part of the solution. It can't just be waiting on law enforcement. It can't just be waiting on this guy getting arrested. The community has to step back in and be involved, and the city has to work with the community, allow the community to be involved.
Okay. Lately, schools would rather suspend a child than find out what is wrong with them. What are your thoughts?
Um, I agree. And I know teachers. I know a lot of teachers actually, and they are understaffed, overworked, underpaid. And I get the idea that if we send this individual home, we don't have to worry about the headache. But like I said, to me, that process, the school to prison pipeline is a real thing. That's a definite problem that we in our community have. The numbers show that we are affected by that more so than the rest of the demographic or the rest of in the country. So again, it's a matter of putting the teachers in a position where they can be successful. They can lead. They can be in a safe environment, but also allowing organizations into the school. One thing I have encountered myself personally is I've tried to introduce programming to a particular school, and the principals weren't so receptive, and they weren't forthcoming with me being able to come in and reach out to the younger guys or the younger gentlemen in the school to kind of introduce some type of structure, some type of rapport. So even if this kid comes from a home where he doesn't have anyone where he respects, when he gets to school on Tuesday or Thursday and see Mr. Ant or Mr. John or Mr. whoever, it's somebody who has a genuine wants to see him do well genuinely. So they recognize that. So I think again, introducing, allowing the community to be a part of the school system and partner on programs that will assist the demographic that's kind of at risk right now, and is very important. So in addition to making sure the teachers have everything they need, we got to do a better job of making sure the kids have everything they need. A lot of times, most of these kids come to school broken. They come to school with baggage from home that hasn't been fixed, problems that hasn't been addressed, and most likely won't be addressed because they just don't have. Or you got a household where the parent is just not a responsible parent at this moment. So it's a again a community situation, a community effort.
Okay. What do you look for when voting for a school board member and city council person?
I look for genuineness. I mean, you see a lot of the people who are running doing the cycle. When it's time to come out and vote, when it's time to, sway voters, and it's time to get the community behind them, it's time to get the church behind them. Honestly, if I see a candidate in a church around the time where it's time to vote for that candidate, I'm probably gonna shy away from that candidate, because where have you been the other 10 months of the year? That type of thing. So it's transparency, just being available to your community all year round. If you truly want to be a servant of whatever you're voting for, you would have been involved on some level with that organization, with that school, are you part of the PTA? Do you go to the civic league meetings? Do we see you at the community event? So again, I'm just not one for the dog and pony show. I like, progress, and I like to see action. And a lot of times you don't really see enough action. You see the action when it's time for votes to be cast. And that's the wrong time to show up for me, because by that time I already know who's who and who's been around and who's not. So I look for a candidate who is involved from day one, not just when it's time to vote.
Okay. So, if you were to endorse somebody,
Mm-hmm.
who would you endorse?
Oh man, I'm gonna be politically correct and say I'm still doing my research and I'm still vetting uh, individuals. There's a few individuals that I see, and there's a few individuals that I see more of because the voting cycle is here. But that doesn't take away. I'm not saying they're not good candidates. I'm just saying I need to see more of the candidates before I make a decision on, who I'm going to throw my head in the race on or endorse or say I want to, back this guy. Because again, honestly, I have a lot of kids, a lot of young adults, and especially in Norfolk, who are coming to the point where they're voting age. So the things that I say, the things that I do make it can sway. And I want them to vote. And that's one of the things that we're big on this quarter, even with the events that we're doing, is we stressing the importance of knowing your value in your vote. So again, I don't want to throw a name out right now because I'm still doing my research and I'm still vetting candidates, but I can say it's important to be somebody that's have been around prior to the voting season. That's big for me.
So, somebody who's been doing the work.
Been doing the work,
Okay. Now, along with voting, I noticed that a lot of people who look like us
Mm-hmm.
are avoiding jury duty.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Because most of our people are going to jail, regardless of what the evidence says, because nobody is
Shows
there.
up. And that's a great point. And I can say I probably was guilty of that in the past. But I honestly, it's one of those things where when you're younger, you don't know the impact of like your vote. You don't know the impact of your presence on part of a jury panel. So you tend to dismiss things and not realize like when you don't have enough people in the room that look like you could get results that don't necessarily favor you or they're fairly balanced, should I say, because it shouldn't be whether you favor me because I look like something. If you're guilty, you're guilty. But what I am going to say is if you do have someone that looks like you have a likely chance to get a fair assessment versus a group of people who don't look like you and they just have the general perception of the guys that I encountered in my life that look like this, so he's automatically guilty. So again, it's important that we do jury duty. It is important that we show up, and it is important that we exercise all of our rights. As crazy as it may sound, jury being a part of the jury is one of your rights and privileges in this country. So just like voting, it's important to exercise those situations and let your voice be heard. You could be determining vote in somebody's case that could sway their life left or right. So it is important to be a part of that process.
Yeah.
For balance.
So I'm glad to hear you say that people vote is important because a lot of people feel like it doesn't matter what they do, their vote doesn't matter. But I asked them to pay attention. Now, why are people coming begging for your vote if your vote don't matter?
Yeah, and again, I would say voting closest to home, making it a priority to vote as closest to home as you can. Meaning, we get riled up with the presidential election and Democrat versus Republican, and we get super excited when we see Obama, we see this person, but it's a presidential election that seems to bring that much electricity. When electricity should be sparked on your local level, that's where you really get a lot of change, and you really get to see a person who you can possibly stand next to and ask the questions and hold them to the fire because they're not 5, 6, 7, 8 layers away from you, and you get to actually see that individual show up at those rallies, ask those questions, hold them accountable. So the local elections are just as important. If I was to say anything, local elections are just as important as the national presidential election. So that's one of the things where, in regards to voting, I would say we have to do a better job of showing out at them local polls.
Yes.
It's not, excuse my language, It's usually not the sexy vote. The presidential election is typically what we see, what they throw at us, but
Yeah.
you can affect a lot more change locally and faster.
Yeah, because like your school board people are making policies for your schools.
Yes.
They're determining where money goes in your school system. So you got to pay attention to who's on those school boards because I'm seeing a lot of schools in our neighborhoods
Yeah.
that are not getting money.
That-
They're not getting that money because you keep voting for the people who don't
Well,
want to put money in our schools.
exactly. And you giving them your vote. They show up around voting cycle time, and they smile, they laugh, they hug babies, and you're not realizing what the policies are, what this person stands for. And again, you want to vote for people who can make a change where you stay first. That should be your first priority. And work your way up the ladder. The presidential election is always going to be the top election, but you want to make sure you take care of home first. And that's just knowing your candidates and knowing who has your best interest in heart. Because I can look around in Norfolk and see a lot of schools that can use a ton of funding, and I look other places in other parts of the city where, it's not as bad. But the problem that I see is consistency. Is a consistent lack of attention to certain areas and certain schools that bother me. So you can't fix everything at once. But if you consistently overlook this school, overlook this area, then guess what? We need to do a better job as voters and getting somebody in there who can make sure the person that we bring in is not going to overlook us.
Yes. Okay. Now, what are some of the greatest things accomplished by your organization?
I would say this past, and we've done a lot, but uh, two things that come to mind that's near and dear to me is we gave away our first scholarship um, this past. Well, actually, it wasn't the first, but it was the first at this back to school event a couple of weeks ago, where the individual, I actually had him in my program for about 7 or 8 years. He was one of the kids that was single parent home, in the neighborhood, running wild. I honestly didn't think he was going to graduate. I always knew he had. I always used sports as the way to connect with him. If he needed something, he would call, and he would always be a part of what we were doing. And the mentoring groups kind of eventually started to kick in, and I noticed that he was changing as an individual. He was going through high school, middle school, and got to high school, and just his life trajectory changed just based on being around good people and just being around good energy. And he realized that there was more in the world than just being in the neighborhood. And my being able to give him a scholarship was the highlight of my year, because for one, it was something that he needed, and two, it was something that he deserved. So if we do anything, our goal, we want to make sure that we can help, where we can help. And that situation was one of the highlights of probably my entire time frame of being in a Reck League, being in existence. And we've been around. We've done adopted families who didn't have Christmases. We fed families, 300 families on Thanksgiving just past last year. So we've done a lot of things, but to me, seeing an individual that came through my program and he actually fit the description of what our program is about, and he was a model for, if we can change somebody around and change their trajectory based on us being around, supporting, mentoring, and loving them as a community, that's the poster child for what we're about. So honestly, I would say the scholarship giveaway to this individual this past couple weeks ago on September 3rd was a beautiful thing. I almost felt like I was giving my child something.
That's good. All right. Well, that's all the questions that I have for you. Is there anything else you would like to tell us?
No, for anybody watching, just know, again, my name's, a lot of people call me Ant, but it's Anthony. I'm the executive director of the Reck League Foundation. That's ReckLeague.org. We are always looking for partners. We are always looking for individuals who want to help a young person's light shine brighter. That's, that could be resources. It could be volunteering. It could be access to space. It could be anything, but we definitely love the partner, and we hope if you feel like this is something that aligns with you, reach out. We're available, and my information will be, hopefully it'll be dropped in the comment section for you guys to check out. And other than that, we're gonna continue to do what we do, and I appreciate Nina, for having us and giving us this platform to speak to this awesome crowd.
All righty. Well, thank you so much for coming. And that's all we have. I don't see any questions, so bye.